Hey everyone, it's Evan Kirstel on a Friday with an amazing discussion around autonomous vehicles, 5G, the Industry 4.0 phenomenon, supply chain, and more. And I have a really impressive guest, distinguished engineer with Dell Technologies, Saeed Tabay. Saeed, how are you?
I'm good, Evan. It's a pleasure to be here to join you and your audience.
Thank you so much. And I'm really intrigued to dive deep into this discussion with an engineer like yourself, not just a marketing person. so tell me, maybe introduce yourself to the audience, a little bit about you, your background, and what you do at Dell.
Great. Thank you again, Evan. Yeah, no, it is a pleasure to be here. I have been involved with this very challenging world of autonomous vehicles or mobility, intelligent mobility, some call it, for a number of years. Often, even as a technologist, working very closely with our customers and partners, trying to really understand their picture, and also watching the market, watching the research that's happening, academic research as well, and trying to better understand that. I've been kind of enjoying that part and the frustration that we might see, and we'll talk about that even later. But it's connected to a number of other technologies, as we know, and for me, coming from the world of AI and connected technologies, from IoT, industrial internet, and digital twins, and so on, it's kind of interesting to have a direct look at this and see what we can do to advance this mobility, this autonomous vehicle topic to the next level. Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of the next level, we all imagined, at least I did, not only would I have a flying car by now, but I would be in an autonomous car. And the future was supposed to be now. And it's amazing how far we've come with, intelligent cars and connected cars, but we're not quite there yet. Why not?
It's a great question, by the way, Evan. I mean, I remember the early days of the web itself. If you probably remember that, when we
Yes,
were
we're both old, so yes, absolutely.
exactly just excited to be able to open a web page, right? That's purely static, by the way. There's a lot of stories to tell there. But from this point of view, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, we've made a lot of progress. Absolutely, we can't take that away. But the point is, we are in 2022, and there were a lot of promises in the past. A lot of progress has been made, whether around the business models, the technology, the research. We still have a long road ahead, and many industry initiatives are helping us to get there, from connectivity, from AI, ML, from data management, the infrastructure, the work we're doing at Dell. A lot of that is coming together, but we're not there at scale as solutions that in the open roads that are very unpredictable, that the public can actually enjoy and start to work on that. But this is something that's coming, and we will get there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to recognize that autonomy in all its forms is not just a challenge. It's probably the most challenging engineering opportunity or issue of our time. And tell us maybe why it's so challenging. And you mentioned solution, because it requires coming together of so many different technologies, software stacks, vendors, entire ecosystem to make autonomy work. What's your perspective?
Absolutely, Evan. I mean, aside from the technology element specifically, there are other elements of trust, right, in the public. There are other elements of adoption, standards that need to be built, and the ability to make that mainstream also is going to require certification and ways to enable physical safety as well as cybersecurity. So yeah, to your point, we need all of these partners to come together. We've been working with some of them on our side, our close collaboration with AMD and others, and particularly AMD as a partner in building an automation capability around ADAS, for example, autonomous systems, with a focus on scaling the infrastructure so that we can get to that optimal storage, compute, acceleration, GPUs, FPGAs, etc., so that we can support these very specific and demanding workloads for autonomous vehicles. So yeah, we need all of these players to come together, to your point, on the software side, on the hardware side, on the communication side, on the security, etc. all of these need to kind of work together in a harmonious way, and we're getting there. And this is a lot of like you said, a lot of progress has been made, but we still have a lot more to do to achieve that widespread deployment, particularly on the consumer AV side. Yeah.
Well, tell me about the partnership between Dell and AMD. That's intriguing. I'm a gamer, so I have my AMD silicon that heats up my coffee in the morning in my gaming PC. But what does that have to do with self-driving cars and autonomous vehicles?
It's great you bring that up. I mean, it's interesting how originally these accelerators have been made for gaming, as you said, and then found their way in utilization with machine learning algorithms, with AI in general. As we all know, AI is literally at the core of these future autonomous systems, whether it is vehicles or others, where we can use them for machine vision, for decision making, for recognition, for speech, etc. So it's really important that that came together. Our end-to-end infrastructure solution in our collaboration with AMD, where this is built particularly for automotive around our PowerEdge servers using AMD EPYC processors. These are what we call system-on-chip SoC systems that offer PCIe links, memory channels, literally reducing the number of processors that are needed and allowing for faster I/O, these are all requirements to achieve these capabilities to advance compute for these automotive workloads. The other thing that's interesting here, where actually in a way complexity becomes a simplification in some ways, where we can think also about making those a little bit more sustainable, more friendly in terms of the way they use power, the way they would work. I think that's really important from that perspective to have that balance as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. You're having to sort of recreate an entire new supply chain for autonomous cars that looks really nothing like the traditional automotive supply chain. I see you have some old-fashioned cars. I'm not sure there's anything in common, maybe except the wheels, with a modern, autonomous vehicle compared to an old-fashioned car. I mean, Dell knows a few things about servers, storage, compute, et cetera. And it sounds like you're applying these modern technologies to the automotive space, but with partners.
Absolutely, Evan. I mean, this is something our global CTO, John Rose, calls the Zettascale problem. The closer we get to level 5, which is the full autonomy for these vehicles, the greater the amount of data that would be generated. As you can imagine, lots of sensors, lots of communications, lots of transactions, the processing at the edge, the movement of data between vehicles with their infrastructure, with other environments. This would, with multi-clouds, et cetera, the infrastructure will require high-speed latency, resilience, capabilities on the zero trust. All of that is really important, and working with our partners is enabling us to kind of have this next generation supply chain, if you will, to your point, where we can actually enable these capabilities and bring that monetization for CSPs and others, all these stakeholders in this supply chain.
Yeah, and when it comes to autonomous vehicles themselves, I mean, many of us have smart cars in some fashion, maybe 4G connected. We all connect our mobile phones to cars, but 5G does unlock some additional use cases around safety and security, first responders, in-vehicle networking and streaming, and all of that requires a rethink, right, of the architecture. And Dell is involved in that as well, in the 5G side, not just on the server storage compute side.
It's important really to bring in that communication, or seamless communication, if you will, to that picture. It's not just the compute and the storage. We have to be able to have that agility, and definitely Dell is involved in the 5G story, and we're trying to drive that forward because that's really important. We believe that this would bring, particularly as you said, a lot of vehicles are already connected. As we get to the end of this decade, we're going to see probably almost all the vehicles will be connected to potentially multiple mobile networks, not just one, which brings that opportunity of monetization for the CSPs become even more significant. But we're going to see that with industrial vehicles, commercial fleets, and even on the consumer side. So from our perspective, we really believe that's important to play a role there and to help push that forward. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. And autonomy is more about cars. Of course, I've seen shuttles, taxis, I've seen trains in Germany. I've, airplanes with autonomous capabilities, drones and drone swarms with autonomy. I mean, is this the direction that mobility is headed in general?
Great question, Evan. Absolutely. I mean, mobility is taking us to another level when we think about it from that perspective. We want to optimize on one side, but at the same time, we have to get all these heterogeneous mobile endpoints, right? Whether they are cars, trucks, or trains, as you're saying, planes, etc., to be able to work harmlessly together. Right now, on the open road, and things are unpredictable. There's so many factors. It's very hard for AI systems to make sense out of that. So we're going to get to that point, and mobility taking us to that level will also help from the point of view of these elements of being a little bit more efficient in terms of power usage, efficient in terms of the ability to bring you from point A to point B as fast as possible, at the same time allowing you to do other things when you're sitting in an autonomous vehicles and you're not driving, Evan, right?
Yeah, and it's such an exciting space. There are so many rumors of new entrants in this space, like the Apple car, which, is it supposed to be a secret, best kept secret maybe in Silicon Valley. There's all kinds of new vendors in autonomous driving entering the space, and I can't imagine. Yeah, I can imagine you're just working with so many fascinating clients. I'm sure you can't say too much, right, at this point, with customers and specifics, but you do work with a lot of communication service providers. It's not just the automotive
Yes.
industry suppliers, it's the whole chain from the provider right down to the device maker.
Absolutely. It really is an ecosystem of players that come together. And as we said, communication service providers play a very important role. I would say it's core to that architecture of the future, where we can enable these systems to communicate, to provide safety capabilities, to take us to the next level, what we call software-defined mobility, right? That brings up quite a bit of challenges, but at the same time, it opens up a lot of opportunities for these CSPs, and we do work very closely with them, as well as you mentioned, at the silicon level, where it is important as kind of all these stacks kind of working together so that we can enable a better future. Really, the impact is at the industrial level, but also on society as we move forward. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing this very brief insight into your and your team's work at Dell. Are you going to have a little bit of a quiet summer, or is it just, you guys really don't shut off? You go full steam through
Uh,
the summer and new announcements and product development and driving towards helping customers.
Absolutely. It will be a fun summer. We enjoy what we do, and we continue to work with our partners and customers and collaborate. And it's always exciting, talking to you. And I appreciate you having me on. It really is interesting to share that with your audience. Yeah, thank you.
Great. And there's some amazing collateral I'll share on the social posts around some white papers and documentation around your solutions in autonomy. So thanks so much for joining us, Saeed. Really great to chat and connect, and look forward to watching your team for updates.
Great. Thank you so much, Evan. A pleasure to be with you.